Okay, so hey guys, welcome. I'm Ashley Peterson. Welcome to my virtual presentation on the story of us and the story of now. I found this to be a pretty challenging prompt for me. It took me a little while to come up with an answer, mostly because what or where I would consider my physical community, like I'm just really not sure what that would be. Um, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. I was born in Idaho. We moved around several times because of my dad's job, but we stopped moving around so much once we got to Oregon. But I still never really fit in. I was always outside the realm of typical like high school kids. I didn't really understand or relate to a lot of their issues, and I just kind of didn't really feel like trying. So, because of that, I never really felt like I fit in, except, of course, on the soccer field, because that is where my life made sense. Um, when I was 17, I started traveling. I spent 3 weeks in Bolivia teaching English and playing soccer, and I really finally felt comfortable, like in my own skin. I felt that everybody I was traveling with was out of their element, and that was where I thrived. I love seeing a culture so vastly different from my own, and it was really great to work on my Spanish while teaching English, and then, of course, playing soccer. After high school, I moved to Italy for a year and worked as an au pair. It was a really neat experience, and a lot of my personal values changed during that year away from home. From there, I started traveling a lot, and a lot of countries followed. But every time I went home, I felt less connected to the community. I felt like I grew more and more distant and separate through my ideals and life experiences. I started to realize that I felt more at home the further away I was from home. And yes, please imagine that I put air quotes around home because, of course, home is a subjective term. But the closest thing I come right now to a physical community, I suppose, would be this wonderful group of people that I get to call my siblings. And since there are 6 of us, we're basically our own mini community anyway. So, uh, I just kept traveling in between when I decided to go back to school. So I'd travel and go back to school. So by now, I've been to 37 countries on 5 continents, which is super awesome. But having this kind of mobility and freedom is really, really great. But it does get a little lonely at times, and I don't usually stick around anywhere long enough to feel invested in a sense of community. I'm not really sure if that's intentional or not, but there's probably something to unpack there, but I'm not gonna get into that right now. So, I definitely still have friends. I just don't typically get as invested, I think, in my relationships. Um, so, Dictionary.com has quite a few different definitions of community. Many of them have to do with the location where the individuals reside. However, one definition that I liked the best says this: that a community is a social, religious, occupational, or other group sharing common characteristics or interests and perceived or perceiving itself as distinct in some respect from a larger society within which it exists. I like this definition because it makes the most sense to me personally. I would say the community that I feel closest to is an abstract idea, but it's a community of like-minded individuals like all of you. So when I was in the environmental science and management department at Portland State University, I started feeling a sense of community around me with the people I shared classes with. Since you have to take most of the same classes with all the other kids in the same major, you end up seeing a lot of the same students. And from there, you're able to start forming bonds based on a shared goal of supporting the planet. And when I started to get more involved with the Applied Coastal Ecology Lab and other groups on campus, my sense of community grew. My community expands and grows all the time. It includes like-minded individuals that I may never even talk to, but they stand up for an injustice that they care about, or they write a paper or make some achievement that's close to my heart, and that's when I feel most connected. I see my community as people all over the world with similar goals. So I guess I'm working on finding the physical community that I feel most a part of, but my conceptual community includes all of you. But I think the world is calling on all of us to take on a project around a common thread, but each project will take a slightly different form based on our passions. I think it's really awesome that we all have very different ideas of ways that we can support and benefit some aspect of our environment. All of our ideas, no matter how different, benefit people and the planet in some way, and that's a really, really awesome thing. Different injustices are closest to each of us, and the way that we work through that and work to change them will take on different forms, but each of them with no less impact than the other. For me personally, I picked the MEM because of the global aspect associated with it. I wanted to have the opportunity to make a change somewhere else, while getting to fulfill my incessant itch to travel. I have quite a few environmental related interests, but I'm really interested in climate change and how those changes are affecting people based on changes in their environment and their daily lives. I'm hoping to incorporate ecology and management into my project. I would love to work with alpine ecology and communities that are dealing with climate threats in alpine and high altitude regions, preferably in the Andes or Himalayas. Whether it's threat from changing temperatures that leads to melting glaciers and less annual snowpack that cause a number of issues, or a totally different problem entirely, my hope is to incorporate my love of travel and different cultures into my MEM degree. So, the planet is calling upon my community to address many different challenges. Unfortunately, there's quite a plethora of options to choose from at this point, but we're united in our passion for change and in our willingness to devote a portion of our lives to helping causes that we care about, and I can't wait to see all of your projects unfold and watch us all blossom into tools for change. So thank you all for watching and welcome to my community.